This podcast is hosted by RPP.
If you are easily spooked, creeped, or offended, this might not be the podcast for you. Hi, Gemma.
Hi, Lana. How are you?
I'm good. And we're going to pretend like we didn't talk for an hour and a half before.
Oh, we wasted so much time today, didn't we?
much.
But
Just
was it
catching
wasted
up.
though? I don't think
it
so.
was. I don't think it was. I am very good though. I'm tired again. I just think the end of the year it's just like that crawl. You're just clawing your way along, trying to get to the end.
Yeah.
So
You just
much is
trying to
gone.
keep your head above water, trying to survive
That is
and
it.
somehow put in some time for self-care.
Yeah, that's right. Some bubble baths and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yes. How are you?
I'm good. So much weird stuff happened in the news this week. What happened in my life though? Possum saga still continues.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I don't know how people are going to feel like this, but Louis is now at the point where he's literally feeding the possums pieces of banana out of his hand.
Out of his hand.
And it is so cute, but I was like, babe, I don't know that this is good for the possums. No, but seriously though, not all people are as nice as, not all people are going to go, hi, cute possum, here's some banana. Like there's dickheads out there.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to get him to just put, if anyone's just joining, my husband has been forming a relationship with the two ringtail possums that live in our backyard.
He is
in the
becoming
tree.
Snow White.
He's like a possum whisperer, and he every night he puts out like a little fruit salad for them, and they wait for their little fruit salad in the bowl, and he puts it up in the tree for them, and we don't spend a lot of time with them. Like he goes out, he gives them some food, and then we turn the outside lights off and we pull the blinds, and that's it for the night. So, but yeah, I'm trying to get him to sort of not be too Snow Whitey with them. Yeah. Because not everyone's Snow Whitey. Because some other people are,
the huntsmen. They are the hunters.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's it. Sweet angels. I did something cool over the last 2 weeks though. I went on the Sorrento quarantine station ghost tour. Yes, I was very excited. I don't know if it was like exclusive, but I felt exclusive. It's very cool.
How many people were on it?
There was probably about, I don't know, like 15 to 20.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Like a full tour.
And this is Erie Tours, right?
This is Erie Tours. So they are known for doing the Arrowdale Lunatic Asylum.
Which I've done that one.
Yeah, I've done it.
Amazing.
It's so fun. Anyone listening will go, oh yeah, that's good tour. Because it is. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And you will be scared.
You will be scared. I don't know if you can just be in Arrowdale and not be scared. It's such a scary building. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that building so much.
Yeah,
but
it's great.
This is the brand new tour from Erie Tours at the Melbourne's quarantine station in Point Nepean. So as far down south as you can get.
So down through Sorrento, through Portsea, at the end of Portsea.
Yeah, there was a gate with like a code we had to put in.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a brilliant tour.
Yeah.
Erie Tours are known for like their extensive history research. It's very, very good. And it was disgusting. Bloody and disgusting. And honestly, the worst part of all of it was just the human nature element of it.
Yeah.
It goes through like...
What is the... what's it for?
What's it for? The quarantine station is where all the ships used to come into Australia. Well,
Right.
one of them.
Yeah.
So it's like original 1800 buildings, and it was started off as like people are coming on these ships and they're sick.
Now, and as my friend Camille told me on the weekend,
Yes.
apparently we didn't get convicts in Victoria. We got settlers.
Yeah, right. Yes.
So the people coming in, they weren't necessarily like coming here against their will or whatever. They were coming here
Gold rush.
You know, gold rush, that kind of thing. Yeah. But some of them, I guess, it's a long journey. It's not great conditions on those ships.
Yeah.
You're gonna get sick.
Yeah, that's it. What did he say? And I apologize to Nate if I screw this up, but like 6 months on a ship.
6 months.
Yeah. It's people coming over, gold rush era. They hear about making fortune over here in Victoria. We're coming over. Someone gets on and they've got typhus, or they've got, you know, some kind of
even
sickness.
measles or
simple as that.
Flu.
Yeah. And one person has it. There's like the different class systems in the ship. So, you know, your higher class people are up further, but as you get lower down, it's more crowded and there's more
very
people.
Cramped, very dirty.
Disgusting, like no sanitation, obviously, like, and as you get more sick, there's more vomit, there's more pus, there's more stuff everywhere. And then these ships were essentially coming in just with bodies.
Right.
And then there'd be, you know, they were being carted onto the beach and, you know, trying to look after them there. And then hospitals were built. And it's just the sheer size of the station itself is mind-blowing, let alone going there at nighttime and hearing all these horrific stories. It's really interesting, and to hear what they used to do, having just been through obviously our own pandemic, what they did then and how they cleaned the items. There was a whole other building for just luggage cleaning.
Oh.
It was, it was wild. So I highly recommend go on the Melbourne's Quarantine Station tour. Jump onto the Erie Tours website, which is just erietours.com.au. and go on the tour. It is so worth it. Any of the tours are worth it, but this new quarantine station is really, really cool. And I think it is fascinating from a point of view of having just been through our own pandemic, as I said, to see how much worse it could have been.
Right.
How much worse. And there's even like, there's really, really cool things of some of the first cremations being there. Yeah, really, really cool. So maybe we'll chat to Nate about it. Maybe we'll get him in and
it'd be
have a
really
chat.
interesting to come in and get him, considering, you know, especially since we've been talking about plague.
Yes.
He has some insight on that, and also he can tell us some stuff about Arrowdale.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting place, isn't it? It's really cool.
It gets me every time. I've been there a few times. My partner used to be a ghost tour guide at Arrowdale, which is very, very cool. And I'd go there pretty often, like just jump on a tour for a weekend. I did paranormal investigations, which was very, very fun. I had some cool experience. But yeah, it's in the walls. I don't know how other to describe it, that you walk in, you go, if you had no idea what happened, you don't know where you are, you walk in, you go, something happened here.
It's totally haunted. Like some weird stuff happened when we were there, and we were like, yeah, it's totally haunted.
Yeah, no, we should get Nate on. We should talk about it, and we should talk about our experiences, because I have like one really personal one happen to me, and then let alone all the other creepy shit that happens in those buildings. So yes, it was very fun. I would love to go on the tour again. There's heaps of Ballarat ones as well. Ballarat's got a fascinating haunted history. So
we did the Ballarat ghost tour. I think it was last year, or it was about, I don't know, 15 months ago or something like that. And this will always crack me up when I think about it. So they've got these great theatrical guides that take you around, and they tell you the stories of, you know, the lady that, you know, she couldn't marry the man she wanted, so she threw herself out of the bank window and, you know, all that stuff. Well, we were there on a Friday night, and Friday night, a lot of people, they get out of work, they go to the pub, and we were very close to kind of like, you know, the drinking precinct. Yes. And so there were a lot of drunk people around, and like, they're all going, ooh. We're like, shh, we're trying to take this seriously. Yeah. And then this one guy, he goes right through, because there was a group of about 25 of us. So it was quite a large group. And he just walks through the whole group of us, and he goes, ooh, Ballarat.
Ballarat. Honestly, it works. So I think there's such like, because the Ballarat tours have been like so established for so long, all the locals are like, woo, like well-timed bangs, and the tours, like the guides are like, it's not part of it, but thank you, it's very helpful. Yeah. It's so good, and like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
And there was another couple on the tour, and they came up to us and they go, do you guys watch What We Do in the Shadows? And we're like, yeah, we love it. And they're like, you look like Nadja and Laszlo. And we're like, thank you so much.
The highest of compliments.
I know.
That's amazing. Yeah, so good. Maybe we'll go on some tours. Let's do some tours and we'll record it and get chased by ghosts.
Okay, I think we should just get right into this.
Yes.
Because we've got a stack to get through.
Yeah. Do you have any facts?
Yes, I do. By the way, everyone, welcome to I Think My Fridge is Haunted. Facts from the freezer.
Facts from the freezer.
So I want to tell you about one of the world's oldest perfumes that is still available today.
Oh my God, yes.
This is fascinating to me. So I was watching this YouTube channel called Laura Jane Atelier, and she talks about old beauty products and vintage like styling and things like that, and which, you know, you and me, we're both into that kind of thing. So the Santa Maria Novella is a pharmacy that has been going for centuries in Italy, and it was founded by monks who would make balms and creams from their garden.
Oh my God.
A perfume called Acqua della Regina was released in 1533 and translates to the Queen's Water.
Beautiful.
The reason for that is because it was commissioned by Catherine de' Medici, who asked the Dominican monks to create a perfume to take with her to France when she married the man who would later become Henry II, King of France.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's described as having a fresh and citrusy bouquet with top notes of citrus and petitgrain, middle notes of neroli, rosemary, cloves, lavender, and base notes of musk. And it is available at Maya for $225. So it's not cheap.
Considering how old the recipe is, that's not a bad price.
It's pretty cool. And the part that I found funny was, you know, this is the 16th century. And I actually had I had this great client yesterday that I did hair and makeup for her birthday, and she was a history buff too. Cool. And we were talking about Henry VIII and the Tudors and everything. She's like, you know, Henry VIII used to make like, you know, little medicines from things from the garden as well and everything. I was like, really? I didn't know that. And, you know, it's just ironic to me that like 50 years later, 70 years later, you know, we're persecuting so-called witches for doing the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. The men do it, it's fun. Anyway. Well, that was awesome. My fact is kind of tied into my community post this week. A few days ago, we posted, was it the Warty Goblin Pumpkins?
Yes.
Available, was it at Woolworths?
It was at Woolies.
Yes, and we were like, why are they all warty? Why have they got all these lumps and bumps over them?
They were kind of cool.
They were kind of cool.
Yeah.
It'd be really good for carving. Like, it would look sick, and it had bits of green through it. Like, very, very cool. And one of our beautiful listeners and one of my good girlfriends messaged me, and she's like, so in some pumpkins, the warts are due to excess sugar leaching through the skin. So somewhere there were some French variants she was looking into a while ago, and she went on a pumpkin deep dive, which I love that for her. But it was a French variant. So it's either, I think, like regular pumpkins weren't as available for Woolworths, and they were like, these ones will do, or they've been engineered to look like that, so they
to look spooky.
To look spooky, but it's just because of excess sugar leaching into the skin, which I was like, that makes sense.
Wow.
That's all it is.
That's really cool.
There you go. So maybe they're like super sweet pumpkins.
The
Warty Goblin Pumpkin, which I lovingly said that's what I turned into at midnight. That's me. Warty Goblin Pumpkin. So I thought that was really cool. So thank you so much, Scarlett, for that.
I'm a bridge troll.
Solid bridge troll.
Yeah.
I'm the pumpkin that rolls over the bridge. I'm like, "Whoa."
Not without solving the riddle.
I'll riddle 3. That's it. So awesome. Tell me about more death, decay, plague, pestilence.
Hello, twisted humans. Do you find yourself wanting to know more about the latest murder, conspiracy, cult, or haunting? Then this is the podcast for you. In 1952, there was a record high of UFOs reported. 1,500 sightings. There has been evidence of human sacrifice, devil worship, and it is haunted by more spirits than can be counted. A family of 2 adults and 2 kids reportedly saw a giant flying thing with glowing red eyes. And meanwhile, the family's nanny that helped Veronica to care for her and Lucian's children was found bludgeoned to death in the basement of their family home. I'm Alicia. And I'm Sierra, and this is Twisted and Uncorked.
Okay, so just some housekeeping with plague. So I'm well and truly in the rabbit hole of plague. So there is going to be a part 3, but I think we're going to take a few weeks off before we go into part 3 because it doesn't end.
It just never ends.
It never ends. So we're not going to do part 3 next week. We're going to give Lana an opportunity to exhibit because it's not all about me.
No, give Gemma a break, for goodness sake.
So, last week, if you didn't listen to part 1, go ahead, listen to part 1. It's all about how we get plague, where plague came from, the early days of plague. We're still in the 14th century today. So what happened next?
Yes, we left off with the great bioweapons of the big
Kaffa.
siege. Yes, of Kaffa.
The siege of Kaffa, yes.
Flinging dead bodies over in warfare.
Well, that's not the only dumpster fire of the Black Death, let me assure you. There are plenty more to come. It's like lighting the beacons. Let's light the dumpster fires of the Black Plague. So we left off in Italy, where up to 80% of the population was dying in some areas. Homes were being left empty. People were digging mass graves in order to deal with the number of corpses being left around in houses, on the streets, everywhere. People were not eating properly because commerce and industry was collapsing. And going back to what you said last week, yes, people were taking dead friends and relatives' clothing when they died.
Yep.
Dorsey Armstrong talks about this in her lectures. When people died, their belongings were given away along with them. Infection, came with those pieces. Would you like this? They had a really nice coat, or they had these really special. They're good shoes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something.
Just something.
Bits
so
and
people
pieces.
would take things.
Pass it along.
Reuse,
Winters
recycle.
are cold. Yes.
Yeah.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Right. When it became apparent that the world was coming to an end, many Italians decided to party.
Of course.
Faced with apocalyptic catastrophe, they felt that it was the only way to deal with certain death. So apart from the chaos of the establishment falling down, you've also got a stack of drunk idiots.
Yeah. Good.
Just not helping.
Yeah.
Drunk people never help.
I was going to say, I don't think they're helping any situation.
No.
Bless them.
They
They're
think they're helping.
Yeah, they're
not helping.
They're not helping at all. It's like wrangling toddlers, honestly. We just go into baby form.
So, along with this, as we mentioned last week, doctors are beginning to stop going to patients. One reason being because the doctors themselves are sick and dying. So there actually weren't as many doctors as there once were. And they don't want to go to the patients because the patients are, more often than not, they're going to die, almost certainly. And that means the doctor's not going to get paid.
Ah, of course.
Right.
Of course.
So there were some doctors that morally felt that it was their duty to go and try to help these people. But there were others that are like, look, they're going to die. I'm probably going to die because I've been around them.
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid. What's the point?
There's no win-win situation.
No. So also keep in mind that the 14th century medical industry was still hugely based on religion and superstition. So doctors were expected to have an education in theology before becoming a doctor.
Oh, great.
Right.
Good. Handy.
Yeah. So, yeah, back then it was really just almost just experimentation, really.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of it, praying and hoping for the best.
Yeah. Some of the things, and this might not be accurate at all, but some of the things when I was teaching apothecary and stuff like that is like, how did they, you know, what were some of the theories they come up with how to cure the plague? And some of them were like the herbs and things in your pocket. You keep herbs and dried things like that, but also walking around in a circle with a chicken.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm like, they're just pulling a piss at this point. They're like, let's just try, I guess.
It can't hurt, I suppose. Gets your steps up.
Yeah. Get some sunshine. That'll help you. Oh, my God.
So Dr. Gentile de Foligno tries his best to find a cure. And he was one of the doctors that he really wanted to help.
Yeah.
No matter the cost. And he mixed a paste of gum resin and the roots of white lilies with human excrement. And he applies them to the buboes.
Okay.
So back then they had this belief, and I haven't written this down, so it's just purely from my memory. They had the belief that the human body worked on balance. And I believe it was the balance of 4 things. It was 2 different types of bile. It was like yellow bile and black bile or something like that. And then there was phlegm, and then there was blood.
Okay.
And each of them represented the elements.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So it was quite pagan, actually.
Very.
So I think, you know, him using bodily fluids, it would be like the body working to heal itself.
Okay, yeah, getting it back in balance.
Right.
It's going to help. Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was his sort of theory. Unfortunately, he soon after contracted plague and he died as well. But, you know, not without trying.
Yeah, it's getting somewhere, step by step.
Yeah. Look, even if they're conducting an experiment and it's wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's still helpful.
It's still helpful because, you know, it's something that you can cross off the list.
Yeah. Or someone can go, oh, someone already tried that. Okay.
And that's progress.
Yeah. What did we learn from that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So another doctor that tries to cure the plague actually has some success, and the patient is himself.
Oh.
And this guy is called Guy de Chauliac, and he's the Pope's own doctor. He's in France in a place called Avignon, and the Pope back in the 14th century, he actually lived in Avignon in France. He didn't live in Rome.
Oh, right. There you go.
So Guy de Chauliac was a very clever physician and a surgeon. He wrote some famous surgeon's handbook
Yeah.
that was used sort of in the 15th, 16th centuries.
Cool.
Yeah. He was upset because many doctors were refusing to go to patients, and he thought this was shameful.
Yeah.
Many of the doctors actually left the city for the country, you know, just to social distance, but de Chauliac stayed to help. As he treated those afflicted, he documented the symptoms and timelines of each infection. Clever guy. Mm-hmm. He discovered that there were at least 2 different types of plague. Oh. So he identified the bubonic and the pneumonic plague.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Really cool. In the meantime, as many people believed the disease was spread by miasma or bad air,
of course,
he believed that cleansing the air may help, and he advised Pope Clement to sit between 2 large fires in his chambers and distance himself from all others, like don't let anyone in.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, it's a bit of trial and error.
Yeah, you're onto something there.
Yeah. This was a belief shared by many people, including a court musician and chronicler called Louis Heligan, who wrote, It is thought that the whole coast and all the neighbouring countries caught the infection from the stinking breath of wind which blew from the region contaminated from the pestilence. Day by day, more people die. Now, by God's will, it has reached us. So they had this feeling like it's just bad air.
Yeah.
So if you burn the air, maybe it'll cleanse it.
Yeah.
So going back to Guy de Chauliac, the Pope's doctor, he was actually an early advocate for social distancing and realised that the disease travelled from person to person. He also believed that bloodletting would thin the blood. Mm-hmm. We love a bit of bloodletting.
Good old bloodletting. Get the demons out.
Yeah. He also said people would, they should strengthen their hearts with fruits and good smelling things. So like you were saying, like keep things in your pocket and things like that. They were very much like smell flowers and
dried herbs.
Just like if it smells good, it's probably good for you.
Yeah. That's what I say about donuts.
Yeah.
Right.
Guy de Chauliac read his findings to the papal court and he said the following. The great death toll began in our case in the month of January 1348 and lasted for the space of 7 months. It was of two kinds. The first lasted 2 months, with continuous fever and spitting of blood, and death occurred within 3 days. The second lasted for the whole of the remainder of the time, also with continuous fever, and with ulcers and boils in the extremities, principally under the armpits and in the groin, and death took place within 5 days. And it was of so great a contagion, especially when there was spitting of blood, that not only through living in the same house, but merely through looking, one person caught it from the other.
Whoa, okay.
So it was going through the population so fast, they were literally like, don't look at each other, you'll get it.
Oh, what a sad time to be alive.
Yeah.
For many reasons, but that one in particular, that sucks.
When de Chauliac himself became infected with plague, he treated himself by draining the buboes for 6 weeks until he recovered.
Whoa, okay.
And this, we'll come on to this at a later episode, but this practice was actually continued into the Great Plague of 1665.
Okay.
Yeah. While on the subject of plague doctors, by the way, I feel like we need to address this. I actually watched a documentary that had plague doctors in the Black Death.
Okay.
This is not a thing.
Right.
So the bird, the spooky
mask.
goth bird,
You know, goth, yeah, it's very
costumes,
yeah.
You know, with like the cool, like flat top hat,
Brimmed hat,
the goggles, the long beak, the
Yep.
long cloak that's like latex.
yeah. Of course, very Blade.
It's very Blade. At this point in time in the 14th century, that is not a thing.
Okay, all right.
So, there is an early reference by someone named Johannes Jacobi who observed plague doctors in 1373. So this is 40 years later, wearing masks. But we don't have a specific description of what he means by they wore a mask.
Yeah.
So it could be they just had some material covering their nose and mouth.
Yeah, tied up like on the head. Yeah.
Yeah. According to Garrett Ray's Encyclopedia of Infectious Diseases, the plague doctor we know with the black cape, etc., was first mentioned during an outbreak in Paris, which occurred in 1619.
Okay.
So this is almost
Much later.
300 years later.
Yeah, right.
And it was described by royal physician Charles Delorme. And we'll come back to plague doctors
I feel like
in
there's-
part 3.
Yeah, I feel like they're such like an iconic symbol.
They're
of
so
plague.
metal.
They are
You
so
know,
metal.
we can't leave them out. So I was like, okay, we've got to do a part 3. But it is not this day.
Not today.
In 1348, plague reaches Britain. It comes in via the port cities of Plymouth, Southampton and Bristol, so in the south.
Yep.
It makes its way up the country, taking hold with astonishing force. Huge amounts of people are killed, leaving towns and villages vastly diminished and killing people of nobility and poverty alike. 40 to 50% of the clergy died. And we know this because there were chroniclers who wrote people that took the place of previous clergymen. Some villages suffered 80 to 100% losses.
Oh, 80 to 100%.
It was huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Oh.
This is why it was called the Great Mortality.
Yeah.
It was a disaster.
Yeah.
The interesting thing that happened in the UK during the Black Death was that the system of feudalism began its early stages of decay.
Right.
History buffs, grab a doob, we're going in.
We're getting in.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Pull up a beanbag.
Pull up a beanbag, get a doob, lie back, let's go.
So feudalism, and we can't talk about the Black Death in Britain in the 14th century without talking about feudalism.
Of course, it'd be rude not to.
Right. So feudalism is the medieval social construct that dictated that industry revolved around a manor house. Mm-hmm. You'd be well versed on all this stuff, right?
I was just like kind of going back through talking about like the teaching sectors that we did. I didn't do peasantry or royalty very often. So I was like, I'm familiar. I understand the concept of everything, like your lords and of the land and things like that. But I'm ready to be educated. Let's go.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
We actually did this in Year 8 history. Yeah,
Oh, see, that's cool.
Year 8 history back in the 90s was feudalism.
See, I wish
Crazy.
we got to learn more world history at school.
What did you do in Year 8 history?
Like Australian history and how all the English people came over and gave Aboriginal people smallpox and that we should feel really bad about it.
We did that in Year 9.
That's the next year.
Yeah.
The next year. I went to a Catholic school, so like...
So did I.
Yeah.
And then in Year 10 we did Vietnam. So, feudalism. I'll explain how the system works. So Middle Ages Europe was like a pyramid scheme.
Yes.
And with all pyramid schemes, the higher you are in the pyramid, the more you benefit.
Of course.
So who was at the top?
I'm pretty sure it was the church, wasn't it?
Ooh, good guess.
Yeah. I thought they were at like tippy top. Or are we talking like smaller?
No, we're not talking smaller. That's actually a really interesting answer. And I'm not in... they would have fit in somewhere, but I'm not entirely sure. It would have been up the top somewhere.
Yeah, but was it like royalty?
The king.
Yeah, the
The king is at the top. Yes. So at this time was Edward III.
Okay.
So I went in to research Edward III, thinking, he must have done loads for the Black Plague. He must have been really on board with trying to, eradicate the Great Mortality.
Of course.
No.
Oh.
No. He was at war with France.
Oh, of course.
He didn't care.
Just every spare moment. War with someone.
So the king needs wealth, prosperity, and most importantly, he needs an army.
Of course.
So when the Black Death came to England, England was at war with France. It was the 100 Years' War.
Okay.
So what did the king have to offer, and who could he get on his side? Well, the king owned all the land in England, and he would allocate areas of land to members of the nobility. Lords, barons, lords, ladies,
Dukes, like
exactly,
whoever, yeah.
those types of people. The nobility would in turn promise horses and soldiers to the king, as well as their loyalty to his reign. And that was really, really important in those days. It ensured that the king's lords and ladies wouldn't pledge their allegiance to other people who had a lesser claim or an illegal claim.
Yes.
We're back in the days where people would kill family members to shorten the line of succession.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? Like the life expectancy is so different, but it's also because people like will not hesitate to make sure they stay in power.
Right.
Like it's not necessarily wealth based as much as it's loyalty, people.
And having the throne was almost the most tenuous position that you could hold in England. Even though, ironically, it was the most powerful, but holding on to the throne was a whole other thing.
Yeah, so many factors.
Right. So you've got to get people to pledge their allegiance to you. So he gives out land to the lords and the ladies and the barons. So what do the nobility have to offer, and who can they get on their side so that they can
go down the pyramid?
Right. So that they can hold up their part of the deal.
Yes.
So they have underneath them the knights.
Oh, okay.
Right. So they give some of their land that they've been allocated from the king, they give some land to the knights.
Yes.
And the knights would rally the fighting men to be their military contingent. And they're like, the spokespeople for, right, we have our allegiance to House Lunacy, and House Lunacy pledges her allegiance to the king.
Yes.
So they rally the army for the nobility, for the king.
Yeah.
And again, the nobles are buying loyalty from the knights. So everyone's buying loyalty from the next people.
Yes.
So who's at the bottom of the pyramid?
Yeah, who dat?
So the ones at the bottom were the peasants and the serfs. So a peasant and a serf are essentially the same thing, except a serf is attached to the land of that lord.
Yes.
That means that they can't leave without permission. They can't just move to another manor. They can't, get married to a girl from the next village or whatever. And if the manor changes hands, the serfs come with the deal.
Right, I see.
Right. Whereas a peasant, I guess, can move around if they want to.
Do whatever they want, yeah.
Yeah. So the peasants have a very simple and a very difficult life, and they're allocated land to work on behalf of the manor house and harvest farming produce. And they also have to pay rent for their land. So they pay rent to the manor house.
Yeah.
It's a tough life.
Yes.
Some of these peasants may also work at the manor house itself as housekeepers, cooks, cleaners, craftspeople, sewing, making material assistance,
Looking after the animals, I assume. Maids.
So many jobs.
Yeah.
So many jobs. And what do they get? Well, the peasants and serfs get the military protection of being part of the manor, whose knights and lords have pledged loyalty to the king. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, well, what are the threats? Why do they need protection from knights and armies and things like that? What are the threats? Well, 300 years earlier or 250 years earlier, we've got William the Conqueror. He took the throne in England, and when the people revolted against him, he carried out what was known as the Harrying of the North. He literally, killed the entire North. And burnt crops, killed animals. I mean, he destroyed them.
Yeah.
So I guess people were like, well, in case another harrying of the North happens, we're going to need the knights and the armies.
Yeah, we're going to need
It's happened before.
Yeah.
But I guess it was far enough in history that they were kind of like,
that's not going to happen.
It hasn't happened in a couple of centuries.
Yeah.
So...
We'll be all right.
She'll be right. So what happens when the Black Death comes to England is that, A, lots of people are sick and dying, so the farms and the other industries are not being worked to the capacity that they should. And B, because so many peasants are dying, the other peasants are starting to inherit money and lands from other family members. There are a few other people that are included in this pyramid. So some... lower class people actually were able to have lands. So merchants, maybe the clergy is in there.
Yeah.
There are other people slotted in there. I just gave you the main ones.
Yeah. The layers of the pyramid.
Yeah. So if people are lucky enough to have land, they die and their family gets it. And in some cases, families tripled or quadrupled their wealth.
Yeah, right.
Really quickly.
Moving up in the world.
Yeah. So now they're asking, why do I need you? Why do
Yeah.
I need the manor house? Why do I need the knights and the soldiers? I'm pretty self-sufficient right now. I'm actually doing okay.
We're good, actually.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So they realise that the upper lines, the knights and the lords, need them more than they need them.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like,
yeah. You need us more than we need.
Right.
Yes.
So they started putting their prices up and they want to pay less rent.
Good on them.
It's like, do you want to eat?
Yeah. Do you want that next crop?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm feeling like Emu Wars energy coming from them. They're like,
Yes.
oh, you think so?
So this is a whole other thing that we're going to do maybe on a later episode. But basically the king gets involved and he gets mad and he tries to put a stop to it. And he's saying, no, you have to do your work at your pre-Black Death rates.
Sounding very familiar, isn't it?
But people are like putting disguises on, like fake mustaches and hats and things like that. And they're fleeing, like they're running away.
Amazing.
And they're long gone. Mm-hmm. So in the next 40 years, this situation leads to what we know now as the Peasants' Revolt. Mm-hmm. So the Black Death led to the complete breakdown of society and modern times.
Yeah. The equality, the modern equality, equality. But
the Australian dream.
Yeah. Breaking down that system.
Yeah. Going on to, we're going to go back to Europe at this point. Mm-hmm. So as with our 2020 pandemic, which we don't like to talk about, but it is relevant, people looked for groups to blame for everything that was happening. And this also affected the body count at the time. So, with our pandemic, everyone was like, well, China started it and blah, 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 blah. Even though there was no actual real proof.
No,
and we may never actually know, but people decided.
People need someone to blame.
They wanted someone. Yeah, exactly.
Need someone to blame.
When people found communities to blame for the disaster, murder was often to follow. So many people start to blame Jewish people who seem to be less affected. Although the Pope says, no, they're going through this just as much as Christian people. However, people of Jewish descent were dying at a lesser rate. And there are a number of reasons that people have theorised that this is. So they were known to have higher standards of hygiene. Yeah. Like they would clean their houses out for Passover. They wouldn't have as much grain stored in the house, for fleas to get into, things like that. So it's possible that because they led cleaner lifestyles, they were not spreading the disease as quickly as crap Christians.
Yeah. As other people not washing hands or feet or, like such simple practices that could be equated to religious reasons. But it was such that difference it made.
And Christians are like, don't wash your hands. You're washing off God's love or some bullshit.
Washing off God's love. I mean,
It's like, no, it's poo.
Yeah, actually, that's disgusting. Thank you.
So if there's not, grain lying around on the floor and, the rats are less likely to get in and the fleas are less likely to get in, the communities are cleaner, so the disease is just not really going to be there as much.
Yes.
So Christians believe that the Jewish people were responsible for the pestilence because they're wicked. Because they're just bad.
Bad people.
And God was punishing all of humanity. So they also claimed that their big thing was they believed that the Jewish people were poisoning the wells of Christian communities with plague.
Who's got the time?
Right.
Who's got the time?
It's just so stupid. So there are several theories as to why this may be that the Jewish people suffered less.
Yes.
One is that the Jewish people used their own water wells. Like they didn't really, you know, they had their own communities. They didn't mix with Christian communities. They didn't get water from their wells. So many Jewish people were held under pain of torture and forced to confess that they had put poison into Christian wells. I mean, they literally interrogated and tortured them.
Just to get the answer they want to hear.
And some people actually said, yes, I did it, you know, because, you know, when you're getting your fingers chopped off, sometimes you'll say whatever just because you don't want...
Yeah, you want it to stop.
You want it to stop.
Yeah. Ugh.
So, of course, it wasn't true, but the Christians persevered with their torture in order to persecute the Jewish community. And also, there's a fascinating new theory of why Jewish people in the Mediterranean especially may not have suffered as much of plague.
Okay.
And it's science. Oh. So in 2020, science discovered that a hereditary autoimmune disorder known as familial Mediterranean fever may have provided protection against plague.
Okay.
It was known to be present in many Jewish communities. The findings were first published in a journal called Nature Immunology, and then in an article published by the National Human Genome Institute. So it centers around a protein called pirin. Okay. It's a protein that is activated as an immune response in healthy people. So when the body recognizes that there's an infection, like, incoming cold, incoming flu, the pirin is released, causing fever and inflammation.
Right. Yes.
So the presence of the MEFV gene causes some people to release pirin randomly, causing fever, even if there's no infection.
Okay.
So some of these families near the Mediterranean, they'd be like, got that thing again today, feeling sick, got a fever. You know, maybe your glands feel a little swollen, that kind of thing. It was a hereditary condition that they had. Now, Yersinia pestis, plague, includes a molecule that represses the pirin. So Yersinia pestis is like, find the pirin, find it and destroy it.
Yeah.
Which fights the infection. But if your body releases pirin at random, it's going to fight the plague before the plague knows it's even there.
Wow.
It's like, surprise!
Surprise, motherfucker.
Yeah.
At the door.
So it's the hobbits with the magic cloaks. They look like rocks.
Yeah. Hiding in plain sight.
They're hiding. Yes. So some of the Jewish people already had a natural immunity to the disease.
Wow.
And that's another reason why people thought they were poisoning the other communities, because they were okay.
Yeah.
And I thought that was mental.
That's so fascinating.
Right? Read Dorsey Armstrong. She's amazing.
Yes, definitely. What a cool connection to make.
Yes. And what clever person found this out?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it'd be like frustrating to have an autoimmune disease, but like, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, oddly enough.
Yeah, it's going to
worked in your favor. So, but unfortunately, Christians, they begin to go from interrogating and torturing to massacring the Jews.
Leave me alone.
In April, and when people reference the pogroms, the pogroms of Jewish pogroms have happened throughout history, but this is the pogroms of the bubonic plague.
Yeah.
In April 1348, the Jewish quarter of Toulon in France was taken over and homes trespassed upon. So they just went on in. 40 Jews were murdered. Soon after, in Spain, further violence was to follow. In 1349, there were more awful massacres across Europe. In Erfurt, Zurich, Basel, Aragon, Flanders, and Cologne. These massacres ensured the end to many family lineages.
Oh, it's so fucking disappointing, isn't it? You said it before. Unfortunately, Christians.
Right. Idiots.
Full stop. Fuck.
There was also the Strasbourg massacre on February 14th of 1349, where even though plague had not yet reached the city, Christians took the lives of 2,000 Jewish people who were burned alive.
What the fuck? Oh my God.
Because in a lot of places like England, plague did not reach them until 1348, but they knew it was coming.
Yes.
Because, you hear things.
You hear tell.
Yeah.
Get a
whispers.
pigeon.
Yeah, pigeons, owls. So after the bodies had been burned, the Christians went through the ashes and collected jewellery and other valuable items.
Oh, how nice. Looting.
Yeah. So Christian.
So Christian of you.
It has been long believed that Christians also killed Jewish people to get out of paying their debts. So basically, if they get rid of the people that they owe money to, they won't owe money to anyone.
Haha, solved.
How convenient.
Yeah.
You caused the plague. And I also owe you...
I also owe you $20. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, kill that guy. Oh.
In Mainz, 3,000 people were killed after initially trying to defend themselves. So they did try to put up a fight, but it was too much. In September 1349, outside Zurich, 330 Jews were burned alive at Kyburg Castle. With so many Jewish communities being destroyed, some people took their own lives before they could be murdered.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awful. That's fucking disgusting.
Just, yeah.
I guess
so much. Yeah.
Yeah, like hearing tell that plague's coming, but obviously they wouldn't have known the absolute devastation that was happening, was it 80 to 100% of some communities being completely wiped out. They're like, let's just take some more. They would have no idea. No idea.
Yeah.
Not that it makes it better, but
and as we know with pestilence, it only makes people fight.
Yeah.
Not everyone sticks together.
No, the real human nature comes out, especially when murder's just like casual.
And if you're listening to this in 2023,
of course,
or,
we're in an archive. In a museum. They're like the great podcasting.
Yeah. The great chroniclers, Gemini and Lana Lunacy.
They would describe themselves as armchair detectives. Must have been slang for the time.
It's like chroniclers, Pepys, Boccaccio, de Chauliac, Lunacy.
I like that. I like the sound of that.
As long as they sing songs around campfires. Lunacy and lie. They talked about stuff.
They talked about death. Death and pestilence.
So, where were we? Too busy chronicling.
Being meta.
Yeah. The massacres moved east, and by 1351, 210 Jewish communities had been obliterated. Over around 350 separate attacks.
Yeah.
Many remaining Jewish people flee to Poland and also to Lithuania, who they welcome them as refugees.
Oh, good.
So King Casimir III of Poland was like, come to us. Come over to us. You're always welcome here, which is great.
Yes.
Anyone who... Apparently this is a thing. Anyone who kidnapped Jewish children and had them baptized could be sentenced to death.
Oh.
So I suppose another punishment would be, we're going to kill you, we're going to take your children.
We're going to make them Christian.
Cult style.
Yeah.
Baptize them and raise them as our own. So King Casimir was like, that's not going to happen. It was also a heavy crime for anyone to desecrate Jewish cemeteries. Interestingly, Pope Clement the VI, normally I write it phonetically, but I forgot this time.
Sorry.
He was actually on the side of the Jewish people and offered them sanctuary in Avignon.
Oh.
And he urged members of the clergy to follow his example. And many Jewish lives in Avignon were saved as a result. The Pope also had the wisdom of his doctor, Guy de Chauliac, who we heard from earlier. And Guy told the Pope that from his experience treating victims of plague, he'd come across no such evidence to suggest that Jewish communities were to blame.
Yeah. It's like it had nothing to do
common
with
sense.
them.
Yeah. The Pope declared that Christians who were persecuting Jews and blaming them for spreading plague were in fact seduced by that liar, the devil. And he said, "It cannot be true that the Jews, by such a heinous crime, are the cause of occasion of the plague, because through many parts of the world, the same plague, by the hidden judgment of God, has inflicted and afflicts the Jews themselves and many other races who have never lived alongside them." So he's trying to bring people together. He's trying to make people say, look, everyone just calm down.
Yeah.
We're all fighting the same enemy.
We're all on the same side here, guys.
Right. Yeah. But the Holy Roman Emperor, who had a lot of power at that time, more power than anyone, he was a bit of a twat. And he disagreed with the Pope. And he was Charles IV, the Holy Roman Emperor. He actually decreed that Jewish property claimed after owners had been murdered are allowed to be taken by residents and local authorities who may turn a blind eye to such atrocities.
Cool.
So, like, if you see someone dying, being murdered,
yeah,
you can take their place. You can take their house.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, take their crops, cattle, whatever.
My permission.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Right.
What?
So you may think that the church and the Pope had great influence over the people. However, Western Europe was under the power of so much chaos. Everything was falling down. At this point, their faith had been tested, and the Pope's directions fell on many deaf ears. People were beginning to lose hope in God or stop believing altogether, which at that time was scandalous. But what happens when people stop believing in something? They need to, by their very nature, find a cause or a person or a belief system to follow.
Yeah. Yeah, life is too hard to even imagine not meaning
That's
something.
why people are left wing, right wing.
Yeah.
You know, people need labels.
They do.
They really do.
They do. They need direction. They need to, Yep.
So many people that feel like they're losing their faith, especially the faith in the church, the Pope, everyone else, they began to give their devotion to another set of religious figures who in time would prove quite powerful for a very short time. Enter here the cult of the Flagellants.
Okay.
Do you know these guys?
I don't think I do.
They're mental.
I know, the word flagellants, but,
To hit oneself.
Yeah. Oh, is this okay? I'm here. I'm listening even harder.
So let's talk about these guys. They became a really big part of the Black Death, and a lot of people have never heard of them. So, as with our pandemic, the hard right decide it's game time.
It's our time to shine.
And in this case, the Flagellants flout lockdown, like ours did, and they don't just go outside, they go on tour.
They get the band together and they go on tour.
Oh, they went on tour. So what are the Flagellants? They're a lot like a cult.
Yeah, okay.
Their core belief is that they are going to violently suffer for the sins of all humanity.
Yes.
It's powerful. They walk through the streets of different towns across Europe and they whip themselves repeatedly, over their shoulders, screaming, chanting, and bleeding. Splashing, probably.
Yeah.
Splashing everywhere.
More fluids. Go on. Join in.
They go from town to town doing this while people cheer their support. And it must have been a spectacle to see.
Yeah.
No Netflix. There's no
entertainment.
Netflix. So I would watch them.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's go outside.
Hit yourself harder. Go harder.
Lana, bring a bottle of wine down. We're going to watch the Flagellants.
They're here.
So oftentimes they're barefoot, so their feet would be injured and bleeding. Some of them will wear shirts made of hair, which was a popular religious trend in medieval times, for one to prove how devout they were. And the hair shirt would like there are stories of knights. I believe it was Henry II's best friend. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he wore a hair shirt because he was so devout.
Oh, wow.
So it would be so itchy and irritating. So it was a constant reminder of your life's purpose.
Yeah. Ew.
Yeah. Now, the chronicler Robert of Avesbury watched one of these processions and observed each wore a hood painted with a red cross front and back and carried a whip with 3 thongs. Each thong had a knot in it with something sharp like a needle stuck through the middle.
Sorry. Yep.
As they walked, they sang a Christian litany, and one after the other, they struck themselves with these whips on their naked and bloody bodies. And keep in mind is also that the flagellants were both men and women.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just anyone jumped in?
Oh, they've got to hit all the demographics.
Of course. They're on tour.
Yes. The flagellants believe that humanity has been forsaken by God and that they need to spread the word that people must repent, hence we all get sent to hell.
Uh-huh.
The church is not a fan.
Not loving this.
Not loving these guys.
They're like, we have to do what now? Excuse me? No, I don't think we will do that.
Who hired you?
How did you get through the interview?
Get back to the mailroom.
Gary, stop.
Yeah, so even though they're playing for the same team, they're playing for the same guy, the flagellants are a problem because they go against the establishment. Mm-hmm. They cause a type of ironic anarchy, which essentially is going to upset the rainforest. And who's gonna lose control of power while all this is happening?
It's gonna be, I don't know, everyone. No,
the church.
The church.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And the church don't like losing control because
don't.
losing control means losing power.
Yes.
The church are well known for keeping people in, to a certain
manicured.
Yes.
Well manicured.
Yeah.
To believe what they want to believe.
But the main reason the church doesn't like the flagellants is because they emulate Jesus.
Yeah.
And that gets people on their side.
Oh, yeah.
They're giving people the emotional, immersive theatre, not unlike a public exorcism. Have you ever watched those videos on YouTube of public exorcisms and people...
The drama.
They're like, I can see, I can stand, blah, blah, blah. Or a public healing demonstration.
Yeah.
So it's, Jim Jones.
Yeah.
It's a cult mentality and it's also a kind of mass hysteria.
Yeah, invoking that emotional response.
Really emotional.
It probably in communities that are already emotional.
Yeah.
The whole thing's falling apart and now they're seeing this and they're going, yeah, that's what we need to do.
Yes, yeah. So, unfortunately, with all this travelling and blood spattering, the flagellants only help distribute the disease, really, and wind people up.
Yeah.
That's really all they did. The plague begins to cease its rampage in the year 1353. So, it's been about 5 years in Europe. 6 years.
Yeah.
But it's never completely been eradicated, with outbreaks both large and small continuing every sort of generation or so, with the next catastrophic outbreak taking place in London in 1665. Lana, enter the plague doctors.
Oh, here we go.
End of part 2.
Oh my God. I'm loving this.
So much drama.
So much drama. This is like the most drama-filled bit of the
I told you part 2 was wild.
It's people's nature.
Did you see the dumpster fire
I could see
beacons
it growing. It was all happening
being
around
lit.
me, and I was like, "It's too much."
We hear you. We will also start a dumpster fire of drama.
Yes, I quite like that. I'm going to light mine as well. Man, it just... it's like I said in the previous episode, I was like, religion just fucking stunted us so hard.
Oh, you wait till I talk about the Puritans.
Oh, yes.
Just wait.
Well, I like the flagellants. That's fun.
All right. We're on a bit of a time constraint today, and I think I've exhausted everyone. So why don't we just get out of here? Everyone, thank you for listening. It's going to be a little while until we go back to Plague. So we're going to give you a little bit of a rest.
Have a breath.
We're going to talk about more fun stuff.
Yeah, more fun stuff.
And until next time, how about you stay creepy?
Yeah, but don't be a creep. Come on.
Jesus, it's be creepy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
So the plague begins to cease its rampage in 1453. But 1453? No, that's a typo. Stop.
So,